I am the White Dragon.
And this is Sir Briz.
And you are listening to Beyond Unreal Podcast, episode 29.
Yes, we fell just short of 30 before Game Developers Conference. We are sad.
Yeah, it's my fault. But anyways, big week. Of course, I'm sure there's a lot of new people out there, so hello, new people.
Hello.
And for you new people, I just want, and for everybody really, I would want to remind you two things. Number one, FragBU is every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the FragBU Mothership server. Be there. You want to play CTF with people that know what they're doing. That's where you want to be. Most of the podcast footage is taken from FragBU.
Yes.
And number two is subscribe to the channel, please. We're really trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before we reach the 1 year anniversary of the project starting. So tell your friends to subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate it.
Yes, we do. Really appreciate subscribers.
Okay, so let's just go into what happened this week.
So there's been some huge announcements. I mean, everyone who watches probably has heard by now that Unreal Engine 4 is now free. You do not have to pay an engine subscription anymore. The $19 a month is over. So you can go and subscribe to the engine and get full access to the source without paying a dime.
You know, it's kind of been interesting because especially at the beginning of development, you could really tell there's a lot of people that didn't have subscriptions, and so they couldn't look at what was going on under the hood and make suggestions. Now it's literally open to everybody, so you really don't have an excuse anymore. If you have an opinion, you want to show something, everybody can go in and do it. So please take advantage of that.
Yep, and in fact, they've started pushing UT editors through the launcher, so you can go to the Epic launcher, to the Unreal Tournament tab, and there's a Create section, and you can download the editor that's tuned to Unreal Tournament from there and make maps and hats and all that stuff from there.
Yep. And so with that, the other thing is that the marketplace is now live, and you can buy hats.
Yes.
On the marketplace.
You can purchase cosmetic items. There's one map on there, okay, and this was made by community member Captain Migraine. He did a really great job meshing this map and everything, and I think the changes that Epic made to it were pretty minimal, but it's out there on the marketplace now. It's DM Lee. It's a pretty popular map from, I think it's a pretty popular dual map from 2K4. You can go click a button basically and have it downloaded on your machine and able to play right away. It's free. You can go also purchase a few hats. There's a hat, like there's one called the Money Hat, which is basically just a military cap or something with a symbol on it. Then it basically turns gold when you are in the lead. There's also a skull hat. But the most ridiculous thing that's coming up for this is the cardboard box hat. It's not released yet, but it's showing as coming soon in the marketplace. And this is kind of something that we talked about earlier when we were talking about the marketplaces. How ridiculous are these hats going to get? I mean, if you look at the Money Hat or the Skull Hat, they kind of make sense with the two characters that are available right now. So in terms of how much they affect the gameplay or how much they ruin the immersiveness of the game, not very high on those two hats. Cardboard box hat is going to destroy immersiveness.
Yeah.
So...
Well, probably we should get into that another day, yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that we should mention, though, is that it does work pretty much the way that we predicted, where you get the content when you download the game, and purchasing it just unlocks your ability to use it.
Yeah, so basically there's an entitlement check every time you log into the game, and that entitlement check just says, what do you have access to? I will say that some people have been reporting issues with the entitlement check not giving them the hat, or showing that they have access to the hat but not showing the hat in game. Those are the kinds of things where we talked about, if people don't think that their hat, for example, is going to show in game, it'll reduce the likelihood of them even wanting to purchase that hat.
So moving on. So the big one, the thing that's getting everybody's attention is they've completely redone all of the effects and the graphics for DM Circuit, and they've turned it into Outpost 23, and it is amazing.
Oh, I mean, graphically, that map is just incredible. I don't know that there's another game out there that has a map that is that good looking.
That amazing, yeah.
Just the visual fidelity from even the minor things like going inside from outside and going outside from inside, while the effects on gameplay are questionable, the actual effect is quite amazing. The attention to detail and that sort of thing is just ridiculous. And there's now an outside area, and I'm sure everybody that's listening has at least seen a walkthrough video of this map, but there's an outside area where you can just basically see off into the distance, and it just looks flat out incredible. There's a little waterfall, and that little waterfall just, to me, was just so stunning, seeing that waterfall.
Yeah. Well, so the thing I think they've done really well with this concept, so from the very beginning, the whole thing has been visual clarity this, visual clarity that, and they definitely have nailed it with this particular map. You know, in UT3, there was a lot of effects and stuff that would kind of dirty things up and kind of gave you the illusion of detail by kind of obscuring things, I guess. In this game, absolutely everything is crystal clear. I mean, where the edges are and all these pipes and everything, it's really complicated, but it's very, very clear. But, and now to the downsides of this map.
So let's tear it apart. Let's tear the map apart.
I believe it has visual clarity, but it does not have visibility. I cannot see jack squat in that map playing. You just see a little bit of movement in your eye and you kind of shoot in the general direction, but you cannot see characters in there. I think the worst spot is when you are walking from the outside area into that area where there's that energy beam, and the effect of your eye adjusting and the lens flare from it just makes it impossible to see anything.
Oh yeah, I mean, running into that room, if there's someone in there that knows you're coming, you're basically toast. There's nothing you can do to defend yourself. And I mean, there are downsides to this map being the one that got meshed to begin with. I mean,
it was probably the most closed.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know, Circuit was probably the third map that was made for UT, and the first two maps got dropped because they were too small and didn't scale well to the movement and any of that kind of stuff. This was the third map, and considering it versus the first two maps, you would say, oh, that's a nice, large, open map. But if you compare that to any of the other maps that have been released,
yeah,
I mean, Circuit was incredibly small.
It's the most tight corridors, and
Outpost is not any different. It's a very small map, and it kind of, I think, fools you into believing the movement is good because the tight areas don't take a lot of time to move through. A lot of areas of the map are things like lift jumps and things like that where you actually get additional speed, and so you feel like you're cruising through this map. But you'll notice if you start on Outpost 23 and move to a map like Temple, for example,
any CTF map,
that you go from feeling like you're moving pretty quick to all of a sudden you're walking in quicksand. I mean, it's that drastic of a change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so going back to the visibility issues, so I don't think it's just the map, because I do think that the map has a lot of things in there that should help with visibility. I really think part of it is the character models, right? So they've introduced 2 new character models, and there's some nice things about them. I do think that they look nice, but I think that they need a lot of work, and I have 3 major issues with them right now. So the first one is that the characters are just way too dark. So even with the team coloring on them, I often find it difficult to see what's going on. Epic has mentioned in the past that maybe they could do some sort of post-processing effect on the actual character to make them stand out from the background a little bit more. I would love to see that, because right now in that map there are just way too many situations where that Necros character is sitting somewhere and you just literally cannot see him.
Yeah, I mean, the character model's dark anyway.
Yep.
It's a basically gray and black model.
Yes.
And so, especially when you're having that eye adjustment from going between inside and outside, he's not really visible. I mean, even outside, if you're both outside, he's still incredibly difficult to see. I won't say that he's hard or impossible to see, but it is noticeable how hard he is to see. And if you contrast that even to how the Malcolm character appears, because Malcolm is more green and whatnot, just because of his armor, he's much easier to see in various scenarios. The Necros character is just... Like, we thought this from the very beginning, right? When they first posted the Necros
He's too dark. Yeah.
model concepts, we were saying that is just too black and everybody's going to pick that model. I will tell you, 90% of the people that I see playing are using the Necros model because he is so hard to see.
Yep. Now, my second issue is that when you put the team coloring on there, any kind of, detail that you would normally see on the character is basically gone. I still have visual or visibility issues even with the team colors on, but like if you go and you stand next to the Necros model when they're on the blue team, he basically looks like somebody from the Blue Man Group with Aborigine painting on him or something. It just doesn't. I don't think it looks good when you put the team coloring on there. I always felt like the team colors in the original UT99 looked really good. You always knew what team they were on, but they still looked good.
Well, and the coloring in the original UT was mostly on the armor, and that was where the big distinction was. Having it be on the character itself,
like on his face,
starts to get into a weird area. Like they tried to do something with the face and head tattoos. I'm not totally sold on the concept of head tattoos. They just make the characters look weird, and then when you add coloring on top of it, like if you're going to color someone's head tattoos on a Necros model, you start getting this effect where they look like they're Blue Man Group or Red Man Group. I mean, it's just odd, and chances are probably pretty good that they'll come up with something different that's not quite as ridiculous as it is right now. So I don't want to beat on this drum too much, but I mean, just to drive the point home, we really need to have team colors stand out from places where they make sense to stand out from, not just the entire model.
Yeah. Now, the third thing that bothers me about the character models, and this was kind of always a problem because they're using the same basic skeleton, but now with these particular character models, it really stands out to me that they just look like they have awful posture to me. So something that I really liked about the original UT99 characters, especially that female soldier, is that they stand really tall, they have really good posture, they have huge backs. That character looks very muscular and athletic in the original UT99. Whereas in UT4 right now, you have this guy that's like hunched over. He looks like he looks like somebody that sits at a desk all day to me. He has some posture problems. I think that they need to go back and look at that a little bit and try and make their characters look a little bit more athletic, because right now they look sickly to me. Maybe that's just because I do Olympic weightlifting and I'm kind of used to everybody that I see is in really good shape and has really awesome posture, but in this game it just doesn't look right to me, man.
Yeah, I think that's something that will improve over time, but we do have to be a little bit careful because that was also something that happened in UT3, right? Like you don't want like had the hunching, and it was kind of a thing from Gears of War that the character was kind of hunched over their gun, and I don't think that's bound to happen, but I do think that's one of those things where you should keep an eye on it because there's a chance that you don't pay enough attention and it gradually goes down that path.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's been this balance between the steroid using characters of Gears of War and UT3. You know, I feel like that these characters are kind of wusses. Personally, I think it's gone a little bit too far the other way. So,
and
it's honestly, not like it's not the size of their muscles. It's like how they hold themselves.
Yeah, there is going to be a tendency in this game to overcompensate for UT3, but I wouldn't say that UT3 got it all wrong. And correcting for UT3, I don't think has to be so drastic. I mean, we don't have to go from where UT3 was and then overcorrect past where UT was just to try to make the point that this isn't UT3. UT3 was a good game, and it had a lot of good things in it. And so it's worrisome to me to try to completely ignore everything that UT3 did and even overcompensate for its problems, because the goal should be let's make the best UT game and not let's prove that we're better than what we did with UT3.
Okay, so next thing, effects. Okay, so last week I went on a pretty big tirade against some of the effects, and they went and they fixed almost everything that we complained about. So thank you very much. Specifically, so the shock rifle primary, it's an instant effect now,
and it feels much better.
It feels much better. People are hitting with the weapon again. I think it made a really big difference. There was some effects with the shock combos where there was kind of this lensing distortion sort of effect, and that's completely gone. In fact, the shock combo itself is completely different.
Yeah.
And the thing I really like about the shock combo itself is that there's like a really bright center part, and then there's a big circle, but you can still see everything in between there.
Yeah.
So it doesn't obstruct what you're seeing. The one thing I will say, though, is that circle around the outside seems like it's a lot bigger than what the actual shock combo radius is. So it needs to be scaled down a little bit.
It probably is the same size because it just seems huge right now.
I've had plenty of situations where they were clearly within the circle and they didn't take any damage. They changed some other effects to rockets. So there was a lot of problems with rockets obscuring vision, especially with the smoke trails and everything like that. The new rocket is a lot better, although I also feel like the new rocket looks kind of puny.
Well, and I think the main problem with how they changed it is as the person being shot at, the rocket's harder to see than it was before.
Yeah, exactly. I think the light from it could be a little bit more beefy. I think the rocket itself could be beefy. Like right now, it's really flat, and it just doesn't look intimidating. I think that a rocket coming at you should be a little scary because that's one of the most deadly things in the game.
Yeah,
and it doesn't. I think that should be beefed up. Anyways.
Yeah, and so they also have all the animations on the UT3 weapons fixed.
Yeah.
They all are aligned better. They've got arms attached to them if they should have. Like the Stinger has an arm attached to it now. Yeah, they cleaned up the animations and effects a lot for this release, so it ended up making it look pretty good.
Yep. All right, next thing is... Okay, the helmet.
Yes.
So
you no longer spawn with a helmet.
Right. So and I think it was the right thing to do. Now there's two things about this. So the first one is that Rockets got a really big nerf when they added the helmet in there because it was no longer a one-hit kill on a freshly spawned player. Now that they took the helmet back away, the weapon balance has gone back to pretty much to where it was, and it's much more playable in my opinion.
Everyone is complaining about rockets again.
Yeah.
So people complained about the rockets a lot. Once the helmet got added,
it was like, oh, it's
people
so weak.
People got frustrated because of the helmet, because it's something different, and people got annoyed because you couldn't kill somebody with a single rocket again, but then all the complaining about the rocket launcher just kind of stopped. now that it's back the way it was before, everybody's complaining about the rocket launcher again.
Yeah, that helmet just completely upended the balance. But I really prefer it the way that it is. Of course, the rocket needs some changes. But whatever.
I think the big thing is that, I mean, number one is visibility of the rockets. You need to be able to see the rockets are coming towards you. Mm-hmm. But the other thing, and we've harped on this many times, and it's something that we were planning to mention tonight at least, the movement doesn't give you any options to escape from something you see coming at you. If the rocket's being shot straight at you, the best you can do is avoid taking 100 damage. You can choose to accept the fact that you're going to take some splash damage, or you can just let yourself be killed. And
right. I think that the rockets are too easy to hit with to justify 100 damage. If they're going to do 100 damage, it's going to have to be slower. And if you want to keep the speed, because I think they can be boring if they got too slow, you're going to have to reduce the damage. It's just that simple.
And that's if you keep the movement the way it is right now. I mean, the movement just isn't fun right now. And I know that sounds kind of harsh, but it's been this way for 2-3 months. We've been saying that the movement's not fun, and it hasn't changed at all. Like the flak cannon, people are complaining a lot about right now, saying it's overpowered. And what affects that a lot? The fact that you don't have any options when you move. There's no way for you to fake somebody out and force them to shoot in the wrong direction or any of that kind of stuff. And it just makes the game feel more limited. Right now, the game is very heavily focused on your fragging ability. If you are a good fragger, you're going to be successful.
If you're fast and accurate. So now that there's a lot more people playing right now. I mean, I can go on and basically I have a choice of 5 or 6 deathmatch servers that are packed to go and play on right now. Whereas a week ago, it was kind of like maybe if you got there at the right time at FragBU, you could get a good CTF match in, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that I have noticed the most, though, with all the people coming in and watching new players play, is just how bad the movement is. And I'm sure that to a lot of the new players, I'm seeing a lot of comments on Reddit and everything, wow, this game is really fast and it's fun and this is the way that an arcade game should be. But I could almost promise you that a month from now, if those people keep playing, they're going to be bored. And I would be surprised if a lot of them lasted for a month. When I go in and I'm playing, or I watch other people that know what they're doing, it's almost too easy, because you can go and you can get that flat cannon and you can just walk right up to somebody and hit them every time, and there's nothing they can do about it. The only thing they can do about it is be faster than you. And because you've been playing this game for so long and you're so used to that fast twitch thing, you just have such a huge advantage over those new players. And the skill gap because of this is just huge.
Yeah.
Playing CTF right now sucks. It's awful. Every game I have played this weekend, except for one, was an overwhelming victory. I'm not even exaggerating. You get that one guy that is a good flag carrier, and he'll kill the one other guy on the team that on the opposing team that's actually trying, and then he can practically walk back to the base.
Yep.
And I think now part of that is because of the translocator in CTF, but I think it really comes back to the movement, right? There's just not enough options to juke and kind of trick people, which means that people are hitting a lot of shots, which means that your skill in the game really comes down to what's your time to kill. How fast can you kill the other guy? That's all that matters right now.
Yep. Yeah, it's super frustrating, and I think the translocator just plays into that. I mean, the translocator doesn't give you any options. So one of the things that I really love about the 2K4 translocator, at least in terms of how the translocator functions, is you have a lot of options. If you need to get out of a situation, you can. And I know there's people out there that are going to say, well, you shouldn't be able to escape from a bad situation, but we're talking about the time to kill right now is already low because of the weapon balance. And it's even more...
It's 0 in some instances.
Yeah, it's even more ridiculous because the people that know how to play this game can just get right in your face and kill you with just about anything. So like I said a few minutes ago, fragging ability is all that matters. Even in Capture the Flag, the translocator use doesn't matter. It will never... If you die trying to stop someone from taking the flag out, you will not catch up to them again using the translocator. You don't have any options. That is so frustrating. I like a fast-paced game where the entire map is open to you. That's what I love about UT. The whole map is in play all the time. If the translocator is keeping you from having the whole map in play, I think that's a bad thing. I hate this translocator. I will hate it forever. If the translocator stays the way it is right now, I would predict very low CTF playing.
I would agree. Right now, just look when I was going on and playing, there's a lot of deathmatch servers. There's a couple of Instagib servers, but like regular normal weapon CTF, there's basically the mothership and like one other server. I don't really see many dedicated players in there really trying. I was playing with Skeptica the other day, who's one of my favorite players. He's really, really good. And we were playing with Joe Wilcox. And Joe beat us. And I was like, Skeptica, what the heck? You have to try, dude. And he's like, it's not even worth trying, man. Without matchmaking, it's just stupid. And then in the next map, he went out and he capped the flag 5 times in a row and finished the map. And it was like, okay, I understand now why you're not trying. So if they do not change the translocator, then I would expect it to be, a very niche game type. I don't see it catching on the way that it is. And the funny thing is that a lot of the things that the new players don't like about the translocator are still there and are still bothering them.
Yeah.
So we've really got to take a look at it. I just don't think it's working.
Well, and you can't get rid of it, right? Like it depends on what you think the purpose of the translocator is. And I know that there's people who think the purpose of the translocator should just be to collect a few items while you're still on the base, or it shouldn't really be useful for catching up to somebody. What really got me into UT 2003, I'll tell you right now, was you had tons of movement options and there was tons of depth to the movement, and the translocator would let you get to anywhere in the map super fast if you knew what you were doing. There was tons of depth, super fast pace, and it was really fun. Like I say, another thing right now that's super frustrating is the weapon switch time. Like if you have a weapon out and you decide, oh, this scenario really could use a sniper rifle instead of a rocket launcher, and you decide to switch your weapon, you'll be dead before it's done. Every single time. And it's not fun. It's not fun. It's frustrating.
A lot of the things that we really liked about the game aren't really viable right now. So, so going back to the helmet thing. See,
well, we got way off track.
This is what happens when you get him started on the. Okay,
I shouldn't have put those things on the outline. That you get me going.
Okay, but on the helmet, the other big thing though about the helmet is that they got rid of starting with the helmet, but they did not change the headshot mechanics.
Yep.
So now headshot mechanics is just like in any other UT game, and it's a blast. So playing face, and I was getting headshots left and right, and It was amazing. Probably the firing rate on the sniper rifle might need to go down. Probably the headshot hitbox needs to go down, but it's fun. That's all that matters. So
it is very fun.
Okay, moving on. Let's talk about the hubs and then finish.
Okay, so let's talk about hubs for a minute. So they basically have put a lot of focus on hubs. They clearly wanted that to be the place where people were playing in this build. I'm not real keen on the hubs right now. There's just a lot of problems with them. First of all, they're very crash happy. There are all kinds of problems with them crashing. Zombie instances. I mean, right now it's just flat out ridiculous.
You're saying one of the epic hubs had like.
It had a whole bunch. I don't want to say a number in case I'm wrong, but it had so many zombie instances that it was crashing the hub. So if you've been watching the podcast at all, you probably know that I am not real happy with the direction that they're taking with hubs right now as it is. When you add in some of these side things like how crash happy they are, the fact that when you go to start an instance, you can't really select very many options, including there's no way to select a mutator to play on an instance right now. We haven't talked about this, but the way that they select ports for the instances is just flat out ridiculous. It's completely unpredictable for people that are trying to start these hubs, and it's in order to get support behind things like this, you really need to get server admins happy with the implementation. And the current implementation, good server admin is going to say, what the heck is this? Like, who decided this? It just doesn't work the way that it should. For example, the instances start at some ridiculous port number, and they go by tens. And so you basically just have to guess this many instances are going to start, so I have to open all these ports by tens and this stupid range. The way it works is just ridiculous. Hopefully those things will get changed over time.
Yeah,
and it'll be better.
those are all fixable things.
But some of my main problems with the hubs right now are, one, it takes so many clicks to get into a game. It's just ridiculous how many clicks it takes to get into a game, and that's a huge barrier for new players to come in and find a place to play. So they added a way to do matchmaking, and the matchmaking thing just fails half the time. Every time I click quick deathmatch, I get joined into a server with a 300 ping, and that's not fun. The other thing is, when you finish playing a map, it dumps you back to the hub.
Yeah, well, so this is my pet peeve. Okay, when I went in, and this was the first time that I really tried to use a hub. So before, I kind of went in and was like, well, there's still some problems with it. But, I just did it enough to understand how it works. This time, I really tried to play on hubs, and it doesn't work. So I would go on to the big Epic hub, and there would be quite a good number of people playing on there. But basically what you'd end up with is like 5 to 10 server instances running, and each one only had like 3 people in it. So if I want to go and play 5v5 CTF, you're not going to do it in a hub right now. Straight up, you're not. Meanwhile, you go onto the regular server browser section, and there's tons of servers that are full. 16 deathmatch, Instagib. There's at least one CTF server that's reasonably okay. So what does this say? The hub is not helping users find games right now. And I really feel that the big issue is that you have to go into the hub, you have to find people to play with you, and then it starts up this instance, and you can play, and when that 20-minute game is over, it's done. You can never accumulate players, right? Mm-hmm. The way that you get a pub started is you go in there and you just start playing with yourself, and then 2 people join. And then once there's like 3 people, all of a sudden everybody joins. And then you can just keep that going and going and going. When you stop the match every time when they kick you out to the hub at the end of every match, you can never accumulate anything. That's just not how people play. The hub does not help players play the way that the vast 99% of average gamers play. And that doesn't mean that hubs can't do that, but they're going to have to be a lot of rethinking about how this works in order to get them there. The good thing that the hub does is it provides you a place that exists outside of just one game, right? Before, everything was just on that server, and it would be really great to have a community that exists beyond just one game instance, right? So I could create my own league, and I can, limit what skill level of players can join my hub, and I can get matchmake against other players that are similar to my skill. But none of that is helps if I can't even get a game started.
Yep. Well, and the thing is, if you think about the way that people get into the game, they just want to go join a server and play. So what you're doing when you dump people back out to the hub is you're giving them a good reason to stop playing the game. Like, I know many times in the past when I've played on a server, I'll play through a match and I'll be like, oh man, that match was fun and I really enjoyed it, but I really need to go do something, and I'll get thrown into the next map and I'll say, well, I can push that off for another 20 minutes and play one more map.
Yep.
I'll
Every
keep
day.
playing.
Every day.
But with the way the hubs are right now, I'll just quit right after the first map. In fact, I went into a hub and I played 4v4 CTF for a while with some people. And as soon as it was over, I went out to the hub and we couldn't even get an instance to start again. And within a minute, everybody that was playing was gone. That's just the way that it goes. If you the game, this is something that I have mentioned on the forums a few times about people having to pay for maps, but it really applies to anything in the game. The game needs to encourage people to play the game. If the game is constantly taking you out of the action, people are going to quit. This is a problem that people have with halftime in CTF. The game stopping gives people an opportunity or incentive to quit the game and stop playing it. It's not encouraging people to play the game, and that is super problematic. That's something that has to be solved with halftime and CTF. It's not solved, guys. Halftime encourages people to quit. People are quitting during halftime.
Oh, yeah. And all of the new players are always confused. They always think it's the end of that match.
Yeah. And so that's a problem that has got to be solved. The game always needs to encourage you to keep playing. It's not up to us or up to Epic to decide when people are done, but the game shouldn't give you incentives and opportunities to stop and quit.
Yep. Well, I think that that's just good game principle in general, but I think it applies specifically to UT, because the thing that draws gamers into this kind of game is the constant stimulation, right? There is always action, and it just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. You break that action, you are now breaking the immersion that they're into it, and they're going to step out and they're going to be like, well, I don't really want to sit here and wait for these losers to ready up again. I'm going to go and play Half-Life. That's what happens.
Yep.
All right. You done?
Yeah, I think we're done ranting for today.
All right. I just want to add that I'm really happy about the things that have been, the way that this week went. Lots of people playing. We learned a lot about the game from watching everybody play. I watched a lot of videos.
Yeah.
Everybody went on to the Unreal Tournament subreddit and started posting videos of them watching, and I watched almost all of them. So please keep it up. Having the more people that are involved in the project, the better the end product is going to be. I know a lot of people might think, oh, all these noobs making these stupid threads in the forum and whatever. But that's a temporary thing that'll go away, right? The bigger we can get this, the better, right?
Yep.
So,
well, and I think we should make sure to be clear, because we do a lot of complaining about issues in this podcast.
Yeah, this is totally the TW and D and Briz complain for 30 minutes podcast.
But I mean, the whole reason we do this is because we want the game to be good. And I will also add, there are good things about the game right now.
Oh, yeah.
There's a reason why people are excited and people are playing and having fun. It has fun elements right now. The things that we are talking about here, we want changed because we think it'll make the game more fun, more engaging, keep more people playing. We want this to be a super successful game, and I think everyone listening does too. So if you disagree with us, call us out. We will respond to YouTube comments. We'll talk to people on the forums on IRC.
Yep.
Come and talk to us.
All right. That's it. We'll see you next week.
Yep.